Hi YouTube, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing okay, not too bad. Had a little bit of a sleepless night, but not really too awful. Just more cramping in my toes. I'm probably going to be going to the doctor for my allergies. I can't seem to get under control, so I don't know. I'm supposed to have like special soaps, all kinds of different things, and it makes it almost impossible. So enough with me. Um, I was listening to Professor Bachman had shared um, the 12 steps of Narcissist Anonymous has, um, and I think there's some really good self-examination things in these statements that are made, like Alcoholics Anonymous only for narcissism. I think these 12 steps can benefit anybody. But the one point that was made, and I can't remember what number it was on the steps of that, for therapists and mental health professionals to not deny a person's, I mean, nobody wants to say, like, well, you're a narcissist and this is the diagnosis that they give you or whatever. I'm sure that would be a difficult thing for any practitioner, like saying, well, like he had said, like a stage 4 cancer, and there you go. That's it. That's your prognosis, and nothing more can be done about it. But by denying that within a person, and not helping them confront the things or the faults like we all have, but not facing them and just glazing over the steps that will help these people become productive members of society, we do them a disservice like that. So the best thing that we can really do is to help them examine their lives. And I feel as though these are people, now I can't prove this at all, and I do know there are some professionals that listen to me. I cannot prove that these, when they were little people, had dark force energies possess them, like you're possessed, because within those change behaviors that they can get under control. And we all know what we do in life ahead of time, and when we do something that's not so nice, we're all fully aware of it, and so is a narcissist. I just believe that there was places in each of our lives where we don't actually confront, or we're not able to confront, bad things that are going on in our life, so we find escape mechanisms within ourselves to cope with the stuff that's going on. It's like schizophrenia, or um, what they call splitting, like with a narcissist, how you can have like a good mother or a bad one, but it's either all good or all bad in their minds like that. Um, if I got that uh, right there. And in a lot of ways, when it deals with affairs of the heart, I've got that down pretty pat. Dealing with the affairs of the mind and the advent of acceptable drugs or whatever in our society, all different factors that kind of go in there with people's health care. So that makes, like, on that scale, it makes it different for everybody. So, I mean, just saying, like, what is exactly for one person or another, I'm not so certain on all that. I still feel like these people don't understand that. It's say, like, if there was a bad angel, and instead of being open and assigned for the good angel that could have helped you when you were little, this bad one got in there, and that's all you know. That's because you didn't have the opportunity to be introduced to the good one, and other people in our lives can try and make it so we don't hear that good energy. And once again, like always, just speaking my mind, so, you know, anyway. But if you're concerned about anybody that you love and that has dark behavioral traits, and we all do anyway, I think that this 12-step anonymous uh, for narcissists is probably a good measure for all of us to take a look at, especially in the care of other people, to understand what is, like, if you love a narcissist, what are these people capable of accomplishing in society without their disease getting in the way of them being productive, and so they don't hurt themselves or other people. What are they capable of? To understand that, that is part of the battle, you know? So, and it is kind of like a child with behavioral problems, only they're not. We're all adults, that's adults, you know? But to I mean, I'm not going to overlook somebody's bad behavior and say, well, you're acting like a 9-year-old or a 3-year-old, so um, this is passable. I give you a pass just on that, just on that alone, because of the disease itself. But it's like I was talking last week, when you're teaching somebody that is blind how to make, like, a cup of coffee or pour a glass of water or something like that. We can't ignore that they have a ailment. I mean, we can't just overlook what it is that isn't going to benefit them. Helping them confront what their ailments are and their downfalls, because we all have them, and to help somebody realize and force them to examine their lives. And we all need to do that to be productive members of society. You do need to learn how to um, fit in that respect, like you go to work, or um, you're out in public, wherever. You have to conform to a certain amount of things that are acceptable in society. Um, Reminds me of that man. There was a man in New York City just, maybe just a few months back here. And he got choked to death by a Marine, I do believe it was. This man was mentally handicapped. and he was like a street preacher type of person, and he was out there and he was kind of like pushing himself on women or men that were around and like causing fear in these people. Well, obviously, this person didn't know how to interact in society, and his mental illness actually caused him to be murdered, you know. Uh, Even though, I mean, this military professional that put this guy in a some kind of hold. I'm not sure if it wasn't a chokehold, but I can't remember exactly what the but my point is fitting into society, and if we're aware that we love somebody that has and you know I even a disease is a better terminology, but I still would prefer possession over calling somebody mentally ill or mentally handicapped or behavior problems. But and part of it, and that could be my naivety, because I don't want to actually believe that these people aren't possessed by evil spirits, that this is actually who they are and who they choose to be. See, that I have a it's like a wall. It's like I'm stonewalled on that fact. It's maybe because of my religious upbringing, or my kind heart, or you know, I do get upset, and then it's easy for me to try and demean somebody that has that um type of behavior if it's around me and if it's affecting me. I'm not always so nice about it. Why would I be, you know? And I've been around a lot of it, so no, it doesn't always go over so nice with me. And then it is easy for me to spit out something cruel right back, you know. And I really don't want to, but for me to overlook now, if somebody actually is examining their life and making steps to be more productive in my life and work with me in those areas, I can deal with that. And then a lot of the name calling from me would lessen, because I would see a strive in a human being where maybe I thought it wasn't even possible, you know. Is that the grace of God getting in there and helping people? Maybe, you know. Is that person truly evil, or are they possessed? If you're a narcissist, well, uh, I don't know. I imagine it would be easier for you just to call yourself evil and not accept that there could be any outward force using you for cruel means towards another human being or whatever it is. Um, for you to have to accept that you're being controlled by something, that wouldn't be very grandiose. That wouldn't be very narcissistic. Then you would be admitting that you are being controlled by something else and that you were not in control the entire time. What do you think about that? I don't know. Just wondering, because I know spiritual possession is a real thing. I do know that. I know that from my own temper. And my temperament isn't typically that. But when it is, I really don't recognize myself and I feel like I'm being used. Just something to ponder, just something to think about. It would be easier for me to say I'm the one that's evil and it isn't an outside force using me in that respect. Nobody wants to feel used, so for somebody that's grandiose, it would be easier to say, well, that's not a outside nothing, that's just who I am. Are you 100% and will you stake your soul on that? Just wondering. Hey, maybe you'd be perfectly happy on this type of existence, only not as cozy forever. Once again, if we believe what's written in most scriptures from any culture around the world, I don't know. But I still see it as people's lack of belief in God, or their denial, their flat out denial of their creator, or their allegiance to the dark force. Whether you want to call it Satan, the devil, Moloch, Baal, whoever, whatever, Baphomet, you know. I saw a meme, it was something like, something about, I think it was narcissist, something like you don't have to come riding in on a goat to be a narcissist, or I don't know, it was something like that. A little oddly funny, I thought. I was going to try and remember it exactly, but anyway. So, yeah, I was listening to Professor Sam this morning, and I had said Lydia, his partner, because I didn't know if it was, yes, it's his wife, and I could kind of tell if they weren't married. I was thinking they should be because they're just a cute couple together. I just love their accents. One of the kindest people in my life when I was a child had a very similar accent, a Polish lady named Mrs. Provovi. She was a nice lady. Maybe not even as nice as I thought she was when I was a kid. But, you know, kids, it was just the impression I got. Who knows, right? I didn't know her well. It just that she was kindness in a world of hell, and her accent always stuck in my mind as just loved it. It's like my deceased mother-in-law, Katlina Paulina Gletko. Czech. Similar accents, you know. Yeah. And I told Doug, I said, your mom's accent is so, I love it. And he's like, well, wait till you get to know her. I'm like, okay. But yeah. Liked her accent. No, I loved my mother-in-law. She had her troubles. Extreme, extreme troubles. She was stuck in a time loop from her childhood. Being victimized and not being able to pull herself out of that, and then some other really bad things. And well, I could go deeper into that, but that's really not the not the premise of what I'm trying to get at anyway. But but as far as narcissists replaying time loops in their head of things, bad things that have happened to them, you know, that's where they are stuck, lacking compassion for other people because they're so stuck on what happened to them, you know. And we do all have bad things that happen to us, you know. It's just the way the world is, unfortunately, you know. But really making your narcissist in your life confront their bad ways. And I would recommend this 12 steps that everybody, you, I, the next person, examine this list, examine ourselves, and, you know, like the alcoholic, you know, you have to be brave. Are you able to walk up to somebody that you've done wrong, unless it's going to put somebody in danger, like he was saying, or, you know, but to try and remedy anything bad that you've done in your life, you know, that type of thing. So, but then I don't know, I have to beware too, because I've had people try and do those type of tactics. And it was a tactic to try and get back into my life and get closer to me again. And these are people that have been violently brutal. So I can't just say, well, okay, so you're sorry, that's nice. But if the behavior isn't gone and it's just masked, that can be a dangerous thing. So I think it does depend on who that narcissist is and if they're actually a narcissist or are they more a psychopath, you know? Because I've noticed those two things seem to go together in some areas, in some people, you know? Oh, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about possession? Do you think that a narcissist would ever admit that they're possessed by evil? Or are they the personification of evil itself in the flesh? Yeah, and when's it all gonna end? You know? Hopefully it would, because not only are the people that love people that are struggling with behavior problems affected, but the people themselves that are self-loathing, they don't love themselves. It might appear like they do, but they don't, you know? It's like, it's like I told Doug, he's, one of the best looking men on the planet. If you prefer your men to look like a man and not like a beautiful woman, if is what I'm getting at. But he thinks he's ugly, you know. It's not the way anybody looks that will be ugly to me. You can be very, very good looking and end up being totally ugly. And then ugly is all I'll see out of that after that. It's like, and then it wouldn't really even matter. But I was gonna say something more about that. Well, basically, Like somebody can be very good looking and then end up looking very ugly because of their actions. To me, that's the way I look at it, you know. But a narcissist claims they typically, most of them that I've met, um, maybe I'm wrong with thinking that Doug is a narcissist, but he has a hard time admitting his cruel ways. And what would it be like if there were no laws on this planet? Would it be more psychotic? I mean, I have to wonder, you know. I mean, I'm not going to let myself be affected by how anybody else acts. I'm beyond that. Long, long time ago, beyond that. So, although people can be grandiose and but self-loathing at the same time and lack that love for themselves, you know? So, which is the real you, you know? So, I've always thought just about everybody's cute to me. And then some people open their mouths and that all goes away, you know? But I think it started from working in retirement homes because I would imagine that everybody was a baby at one point and there they were vulnerable just like they were when they began, except for the mind and the heart and the age that had gone along with all that. But the vulnerability factor, that's something I think all narcissists need to face, is not just their vulnerability, but is it really a mental illness or is it possession? Satan controls the flesh. Your brain is a muscle. With the chaotic nature of a narcissist inside there, and we are like a thyroidal receiver. What I'm saying is not only possible but highly probable, and I think narcissists do not want to admit that their flesh and their mind and the spirit that goes within or out of people, the two different forces that are in every person, I don't think they want to admit that something else actually has control over them and they take it on for themselves like a part of their selves. Because if you can use behavior modifications to help people be more functionable in society, and they are fully aware of what they're doing, but they just don't want to admit that there's outside forces that have more control over us than we do ourselves. I mean, right now, God could kill me right here on camera. Boom, I'm gone. I don't have any control over that. It's a bummer, and I wish I did, or maybe I don't. I'm probably better off letting him take the reins and with that one. Or I could be stubborn and say, well, I'm just going to live my life the way I'm going to live it here, and whatever comes on that very last day, isn't my problem, and it's never going to be my problem because I know everything anyway. I'm omnipotent, but I have no control over my death, and I have no control over my life. But if I had the mindset of being godlike, well, then I wouldn't have to worry about that very last day. I would be fully aware that I made myself that I didn't, and that very last day I had control over, which I don't, and that I can control every bodily function within myself because I am all-knowing, and to admit that I really don't have any control over anything that I just mentioned. So are you demon possessed? It'd be a really big bummer unless you believe that there is an afterlife and it's going to be okay, because we are going to be okay. We're learning lessons out of love, not hatred. Just a minute here. I guess, too, you would have to admit that there was a God to admit that there was a Satan. Maybe. Or not. If you think you're God, but you're not acting God-like, well, I guess you wouldn't have to admit that you were Satan. You wouldn't have to admit that you're part of the dark force. That's just squeezing by, fitting into society with our new little behavior modifications. You know, it's like a thief. I'm not going to steal from you. I know I've stolen from you in the past, but I'm never going to do it again. And so you let them into your house and things end up missing. Well, you just listen to the devil, you know, it's like, and they aren't going to tell you that's who they are, you know. So there's still some kind of catch with the whole thing, is what I'm saying. Yeah, we all need to function in society, but what actually, and taking responsibility, would be admitting the spiritual part of the whole thing. It's really important. I keep saying that, but these medical professionals aren't going to incorporate that in their care for people, because you'd be going out of the norm of society now. It's easier for people to believe in ghosts on Halloween and horror movies than it would to admit that we have Halloween and horror movies as a constant thing in our life through other human beings on a daily basis, you know. When you're a little kid and you watch your parents do bad things, and you might copy what they're doing or whatever, I was just talking to Doug this morning about how when I was 4, I had called the neighbor kid up for about a block away from my house. And actually, I was saying it to my parents, and of course, they couldn't prove it. And I got in trouble because the whole neighborhood heard me. But I mean, that's something I learned in my house from my dad. But I mean, when we learn these learned behaviors from people that are the adults in the situation, well, of course, I knew right then and there that it wasn't the right thing to do. And I didn't have any idea of what maybe demon possession or even, and I can't prove this part, that would be projected thoughts. How somebody can project their thoughts and actions into another human being. So they would have control over that human being. So maybe like they wanted to beat me up anyway and projected those thoughts into me on purpose so they could do what they wanted to do when I got home after I had said that, So, and that is a real thing. Adults can project thoughts and feelings, and other people are really good at this too. Downright wizards doing that. Aiding people into dark things with their words and their actions, and it's intentional. I call it projective thoughts. They're projecting their thoughts into you, and it is a craft. It's a real thing. Here's a scenario too. If you have children, you can be like, your baby might be almost asleep, and then you can have somebody with bad energy come in around your child. There's no apparent reason why that child will start crying, but they will. If you're an intuitive parent, you're going to pick up on that bad energy that entered the room, and so did your baby. Or if you're upset and you're holding your baby can get upset too from your thoughts. That's projected thoughts that baby picks up on. Well, there are people that practice crafts, just like I just said, on a daily basis around people. Like the news media, for instance, they're very good at that. Total masters. It's not just deception, it's beyond that. It's word magic, but I'm talking thought magic and possession and wizardry, real things, the spiritual things that aren't being addressed, that are real, you know. Do you ever feel that your bad parent, if you had one, was projecting their thoughts on you because they didn't want you to excel for goodness beyond what they could do? Because then they would have to deal with their faults. If they raised a child that seemed to be a better human being than they were, they would feel like a failure. If they can keep that child stupefied and mystified and hypnotized with any kind of crafts that they might be doing, then they would win in their mind for the dark force that they worked for your demise. And that's all a part of that dark force possession. And that's an absolute real thing. Might be hard to let go if it's been a lifelong habit. If it truly isn't who you are, if you do have any kind of compassion or empathy, or if you're even able to function in society and realize the rights and wrongs out in the world. Well, I don't know, because some really demonic people can realize rights and wrongs and still act like a decent human being out in the world, so I guess that's probably not a part of it. But was there anybody in your life when you were a little kid that projected thoughts, or even through their actions would cause a reaction in you that you took on for yourself as part of your persona when you were a little kid? You know? That's what I'm saying. Mine's called the swearing demon, and it likes to get angry too, and I don't let it control me because I know it's outside forces trying to make me behave in ways that I'd rather not. My bad part of me inside of me loves that shit, but my goodness says, no, I really don't want to portray this for other people so they pick up on that and think that that's a part of who I am, you know. I use it as a protection mechanism, and I still have to be really careful. I have people that hate me like you would not believe, and I think you can probably understand why. You know, not because I'm not likable, it's because they're not, and they don't want me to say anything about it, you know? So in order to admit that I was actually even being used, I would have to believe that thought projection or witchcraft or demonic, Masonic vibes out in the ether were actually a real thing. I would have to admit that part. But then if I were a narcissist, I would take all that on for myself and become king of the world, you know, and God himself. Then I wouldn't have to admit that I was anybody's tool. That's my point, you know. Either way, we're being used. We're either being used for good or we're being used for evil. But in this human flesh, we're being used. We're a tool for one or the other. It's just a fact of life. It's just, what are we going to accept? We know we're not king of the world. We know we're not the boss. We know we didn't make ourselves. And it seems so simple that we would just accept it. But some people just cannot accept that. It's like a baby. It's like if a baby was brand new and the mother went to feed it and the baby would just like bite her, or I mean brand new baby, no teeth, whatever. But or if you're going to bottle feed them or whatever, slap that bottle out of mommy's hand because you're self-sufficient little narcissist, king of the world, boss altogether, right then and there, the second you were born. but you weren't. And you were vulnerable. And you still are in a lot of respects. We have no control over anything, actually, in our day-to-day lives, yeah. But to begin and to end it all, no control whatsoever. And even if you think, or I think, I have total control over my life right this second, God could show me different, I'm really aware that things can change in a heartbeat, you know. Because people are born innocent. And that's the main thing right there. That the demonic forces will try and take that innocence away from that little baby as quick as it can and do as much damage. And it's individualized too. Oh yeah. Those demonic forces, they know God's heart. They deny God's heart and his ways. And they know how to destroy that too. There's been ways and words and tools and medicines and um, uh, things that we do through our lives that are adapted just for destruction. How to deconstruct a human psyche as quick as possible to leave that child vulnerable to the dark forces so they don't have any um, opportunity to get to know the better things in life that aren't going to harm you or to cause you to self-hate or any of that. But if it can just turn that around and make you hate yourself when you're a little kid, and then you're going to try and compensate for that somehow by becoming the strongest or the smartest or the most beautiful or whatever, to try and compensate for those insecurities and that loss of innocence, you know, and cover it up, you know. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that it's possible that we're all possessed by one or the other, the father of lies or the father of all creation? You know, if you're not possessed by that and you are that personification, I don't know, a person might be comfortable right now in their lives, but do you ever see an end to that comfort? And even if um, the struggles within a person with behavioral disorders, how do we reach people and calm them down? You know, I'm not trying to force a calming nature on you. I'm a radical person. Um, in a lot of ways. So But my home is calm, if that makes sense. I mean, if I get radical, I'm kind of like backed in a corner and pounded on for a long time, and then I'm going to act out. So basically, my home is a peaceful place, unless I get infected. But just examining, like when we're little and we have these things that are intentionally put upon us so we don't excel. I'm just asking, don't you feel used? Don't you feel like a tool? It's not like, even if you have like a mean streak and it's real and you don't cover it up or hide it, but you're actually a nice person. You just have something that can surface if another person keeps, it's like poking the bear. You keep poking that bear in the same spot, and you might at first not get through the fur, and you keep poking, poking, poking. You finally get through the fur. Chances are you're probably gonna get hurt after a while. Or poking that sleeping bear, you tickle it a little bit, but if you actually like smack it or something, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to have to deal with what happens after that. That's my personality, you know, and that does stem from abuse, and self-preservation and self-love, you know. I don't know where I went with that, but that's okay. Uh, I'll get there. Cheers, everybody. I'll get back on it. Don't you see, though, that these intentional things that were done to us when we were little kids, even if it was being ignored by your parents or whatever it was totally intentional to form you into the human being that you are today and to cause you those setbacks so you wouldn't excel beyond what your parents were. That's a fact. I'm telling you the truth. And sadly, as adults, they were fully aware of what they were doing and who they were doing it for, you know. That was a hard thing for me to realize. I would think, why would somebody purchase a baby? They actually bought me, they picked me out just to try and form it into something that was unnatural, just for, like, they got a boy and a girl so they could appear to have a real family in a society where having a boy, a girl in a suburban house was like the thing to do, so they could fit in, or maybe they just wanted little slaves or somebody to torture. I'm not kidding. I have no clue. I do in a way, but yeah, what if you had to buy your baby in order to torture it? Or your wife? What if you had to pay more to even marry that woman than you would for 20,000 divorces? What if you had to like purchase like 500 camels and 20 pounds of diamonds to even purchase your wife, Would you think about it differently before you put all that up front and put all that energy that it took to get all those camels and diamonds, would you do it? You know? I guess what I'm saying is they picked the wrong kid. Because I was fully aware of their tactics. Don't ask me how, but I was. Some of the behaviors that took me a long time to get rid of them. And some of them I've never let go because it's part of my defense mechanism, and I'm keeping that. It is protection, and I have to. I know better. Anytime I've let my guard down, the dark force will send people around me. And it isn't a test, it's a dangerous situation. So it's a little different because I am fully aware, and I always have been, of all that and what they were trying to do. And they do something and expect some kind of reaction out of me. And I always tried to make it a reaction that they weren't expecting. That got a little out of hand for me when I was a kid too, because it could have even been a good scenario, and then I kind of would twist it because they deserved it, that type of thing. A little bit narcissistic myself, yeah, I did. But I'm just being honest, Yeah, I was difficult for them, you know. And I am proud of one report card said on there, I'm incorrigible. No, you can't encourage me. And I'm not impressionable either. That should have been the word. I can, I guess, be encouraged. I still have a decision whether or not to adapt to that type of thinking or whatever, but I'm not impressionable. So that's a big thing. I think a lot of people are more impressionable in this world, by seeing somebody else or something else or whatever, and thinking, gee, I could be like that, or I could take that on as a part of myself, or I never really felt like that. I always felt kind of like really alone, you know. A lot of people say, yeah, they are lonely, but have you ever gone like 10 years without even a hug from another human being? You know, that'll give you a lot of time to think. I'm serious too. Because for me personally, the minute I feel that somebody isn't connected with me, then they are not connected with me. And that goes with physicality too. In other words, if I'm not close to you emotionally or mentally, you certainly are not going to touch me, you know. So, yeah. It does make for a better friendship if, because actually, sexuality gets in the way of what is actually real within our souls. And there is such a thing as demonic infection through sexuality with people, and the sharing of DNA and electronic forces that actually do play a part on our planet in the human psyche. And I'm a warrior like that. I cannot be played with. I have too much. Okay, what they say, pride was the sin that made Satan fall, so to speak, or Lucifer, how he became Satan. But pride is a different kind of word, too, because we all should have a certain amount of pride within ourselves. It was the iniquity that was found in him that was the sin, meaning perverse thoughts, whatever that entails, and that's a great big list. We can make a list, a book, on what is perverse out of the normality of a well-centered human being, So what is that iniquity? It's not just pride, because sure, we should have self-pride up to a point, not to the point where, gee, I'm so proud of, like I play the flute, or did play the flute. I became really accomplished, and I was proud of that. But not to the point where if somebody else played the flute in the same orchestra, that I wouldn't see the credit of what they were doing in that orchestra as a group, I'm not singling myself out as a narcissist and saying, I'm the greatest flautist ever on the planet, and that's just the way it is, Now that would be pride, you know, a narcissist type of pride, you know. I don't know. I'm just analyzing myself by way of talking to other people and, you know, giving you my thoughts. So, but what if that in the flesh, as a little human being that had lost their innocence, that iniquity wasn't actually yours, and that demon inside you that you do not want to admit is actually there, reveling in glee, just glory, that you don't realize your own self and they have control over that. That's my point, because it's true. We're not in total control of ourselves, no matter who we're serving, and you may not think you're serving the dark force with your dark ways, but that's exactly what it is. But the admittance of that, or the lack of admitting that, still allows you to be the boss of your own vessel that you entirely have no control over, you know? And we're all being used by one force or the other, or a combination of the both, you know? And I know that it's probably not a good thing, like even with my temper or whatever. I can't pretend to be good one day and then be a total jerk the next day, and like that's going to be acceptable with my creator because he told me better than that. He's like, no, it does not work like that. If you act like an animal, I'm going to treat you like an animal, you know? Well, Satan says the same thing. If you're going to act like an animal, I'll help you. That's how he thinks, Now, I'll send people, I'll send legions of people to help you be more animalistic, And that really is what's going on. It boils down to the spiritual war. That's really, really, and the loss of our innocence when we're a little child and how that happened and who participated in making that happen. Think back. There's a list you can make. Think back at the people that actually participated. It might be painful to take a look in there. Who were those people that taught you those bad ways that you adopted for yourself because you weren't made that way? You did not slap that bottle away from your mommy when you were vulnerable. You know? You would now if you're a self-proclaimed narcissist or even covert hiding, then you would think to yourself, yeah, I'd slap that away. I can get that bottle for myself. I can do that by myself. Um, just think back. Where did you learn those behaviors? Even the thoughts within your own mind, they weren't there. They were put there, Or at what age did you decide that the loving, more tender nature of a human being wasn't for you and you were going to go the other route because other people were vulnerable and you could take advantage of that and excel in those areas where other people seem to be weak, giving you the advantage over them because they wouldn't act like that, but you would, so that made you like your persona of a God figure within yourself. And then not having to admit that there's any outside force that actually has control over you that you don't want to admit, you know? It always boils down to we always find out that we really don't have any control whatsoever. Anytime you look at anything, any breath you take, every move you make, God is watching you from the inside out. And so is Satan. Who's your daddy? I keep asking people, do you understand the spiritual war? And the healthcare professionals, mental health without a spiritual aspect. Where's the concern for other people? We can gloss it over with all the words and terminology that we want in the world, but you're also glossing over the loss of your own innocence and when you decided to take on that dark nature and you're not admitting it. That still allows you to be godlike. I understand that, you know. Some days it's harder to be nice than other days. Yeah. That's my lack of control if I go there, making a fool out of myself. Well, that's probably about it for today. I just want to try and make the mental health professionals incorporate the spiritual warfare that's going on. And like I say, we can find all the words in all the books that have been written by Freud or whoever. And there's psychoanalysis of the human psyche. Yeah, there's certain things that people do that we have in common. But for each person, when we take on the world's a stage and everybody's an actor, and that role that we take on for ourselves, I still say is guided by one spirit or the other. And all the books in the world aren't going to take that fact away. All the terminology that is still lacking in the spiritual lore that was implemented towards you as a little baby on purpose, intentionally, to form you into a part of the army of the dark force against those that aren't. It's still your decision on a daily basis what role you're acting. Are you the type of actor that can take on a dual role, like I used to be a jerk and now I realize what a jerk I was, and God actually goes into your heart and starts working in those areas? That's beyond behavior modification. That's asking for God's help and actually receiving what you asked for. Actual spiritual help and spiritual guidance through them dark, traumatic times that you suffered, making you that apparently cold-hearted individual that you appear to be today. And I believe you. You're probably as cold as you say you are. Is it practice behavior? Because you were not born that way. I don't know. Well, I'm going to let it go at that. I'm still trying to yeah, I don't want to believe that you're just evil and there's no chance for you to become a good human being that loves yourself and wouldn't hurt another person. I believe that is possible inside of all human beings. And I know that from the choices I've made in my life, and I'm just going to keep saying it. It's a spiritual war, and people's innocence is lost in the most vile ways that they can possibly do to turn you against goodness and into the monster that you are today. So, all right, everybody, I love you. I appreciate you joining me. Have a wonderful night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.